Welcome, Wombat Regime, back with another one. What is the difference between spontaneous and linear existence? I'm going to explain that to you. There's a lot of things going on nowadays. People are looking for answers. What's happening? Why is the system failing? Why does it seem as though there is no way out? Boom. The way of the Tao, minimalism. It's a freaking documentary, great stuff, loaded with content. We're going to start from the top. Main difference between a spontaneous and a linear existence. Spontaneous existence contains and embodies inner trust. Linear contains outer desire for control. What's the difference? You ask. Well, inner trust affects your outer reality. And basically, they are not teaching us this because it would go against the linear system that has been built and created. You look at animals and you see them in the wild. What do? Whatever they want each and every day, spontaneously. They do whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want. What's the difference? Why can't you cross a border? Why can't you cross a border without filling out a lot of paperwork? You're drawing a lot of lines on paper because someone in their imagination made up that they own that border, but just, 100 feet away, you see birds fly across without signing any paperwork spontaneously. They're not writing any lines, linear lines. They're not writing this. Come on. Next point of a spontaneous existence, letting go of control versus protesting one form of control to go to a parallel system of control. What does that mean? Parallel system of control. What is that? What? Whoa. What is that? Oh, simply means, you're pretty much putting a Band-Aid on top of a Band-Aid on top of a Band-Aid. And at the end, the scar doesn't get any air to heal itself naturally. So there's lots of ways we could tackle this, but I just want to go off on a tangent here for a second and explain, or just give you a quick couple little dots. I want to connect a couple dots of how the system doesn't necessarily heal anything when there's multiple levels of control. And government, or at least the United States democracy, you got 3 branches of government. You got legislative, judicial, and executive. And each one of these branches control different sets of information to basically form the system structure. I think they call it checks and balances, how they keep each other balanced out, supposedly. Why was I tuned in to a DJ Vlad interview of a guy named Michael J. White saying that he was denied the right to become a police officer simply because he scored too high on a test, and they were afraid that he would be involved in corruption? What does that mean? It's weird, isn't it? When you really take the cover off. Then you got other movies out. It's a movie called American Made where Tom Cruise is involved in a certain level of law enforcement that is involved in corruption. But they told Michael J. White, no, can't be here because we're at the bottom of the totem pole, and basically, yeah, the people that are actually doing the corruption stuff they're not here, buddy. Can't be here. What does that say? Doesn't really matter what it says. It's right there in front of you, basically. This linear existence, you know, just one form of control to another. I'm gonna hop to the next point. I mean, I could still talk about that. I don't really like, promoting things that, may seem as though, who knows, someone's holding the puppet strings, whatever. This is why I'm explaining the differences, because basically a lot of these control mechanisms only exist when you attempt to adopt the conditioning of a linear system. In a spontaneous reality, there is no system. There is giving, there is helping, there is individuals that trust each other. You might say, how is that possible when people do this, do that? Well, when you go to school for the first 18 years and they're teaching you separation, which is a strategy of divide and conquer, pretty much that's where the programming starts, to build you into a linear cooperator, if that makes sense. Putting you together in their game of Legos. It's just a whole bunch of Legos. Look at the road. Legos. Buildings. Legos. Infrastructure, period. Legos. Someone had a great imagination and decided to keep building on that imagination, which is capable of any being to put together an entire load of Legos, and their little Lego soldiers, National Guard, come out when you burn down their Legos that they spent a lot of time playing in the sandbox to build up to a masterpiece of their liking from the imagination, which everyone has. Boom, next point. Spontaneous, moving towards what you love and not fighting against what you hate. Linear, attempting to force peace. Come on. What am I saying here? Basically, scientifically proven, something called the galvanized skin response. I'll try to link that. That basically says they measured in a lab, and these findings of this experiment were replicatable. Staring at another individual literally raised the temperature of that individual's skin. What does that mean? You ever had that feeling someone's looking at you and you look and someone actually was looking at you? That's what I mean. Pretty much, when you try to force peace by paying attention, with your attention, the highest currency that there is that we know of, you only add energy to whatever you're paying attention to. So it doesn't matter if it's love or fear or whatever emotions you have towards, whatever this is, it pretty much, it just gives it more power. It doesn't really help. But when you take back your power, remember that galvanized skin response, and you think of it, you begin to trust yourself. Woo. Synchronicity. When you begin to trust yourself, you start to understand that when you start with inner trust, the outer reality is affected. And that, and change, in turn, brings change. Next point. Spontaneous. Oh, whoa, there it is. Still and reflective. It's not spontaneous things going on. Freaking flies slapping me in the face. Wind slapping my board. What's next? Rain slapping my skin. Jesus. Next. Still and reflective. Still, reflective, and transparent. Linear. Rough. Non-reflective and transparent. Oh, wow. Mistake. And non-transparent. Rough, non-reflective, and non-transparent. Look at a bottle of water or a lake that has no wind hitting it. The water is very reflective and transparent. You can see through this. Look at a rough river where they go, rough water kayaking or something. You can't see through that because the water is not at rest. It's not relaxed. And what is the body made of mostly? What, 80% or something freaking water? So what does that tell you? A still mind, which is its natural state, according to the documentary Minimalism, The Way of the Tao. I think that's the name. I need to get the actual name. The documentary Minimalism, The Way of the Tao says the natural state of the mind is stillness. And if you look at a still body of water, it is very reflective and transparent. You look at a rough body of water, it's very non-reflective and non-transparent. What does that say? You can easily manifest or enjoy a spontaneous existence when you obtain or maintain the still, mind state. It's similar to water because we're 80% of it, so it makes, when you get deeper into it, it all makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Boom, last point. Spontaneous is inner leadership versus a linear existence of seeking others to lead you. What does this mean? We've seen what happened, seeking others to lead you. We've seen what happened earlier, the first quarter of this year, of people scrambling across the globe or wherever, attempting to deal with the illness. I think it goes to show that, hey, 2020 vision, something's clear. The leaders are the make-believe leaders. Stockholm syndrome that they've put on individuals seem to be backfiring. It seems that a lot of individuals weren't sure what to do. It seems that people are protesting and burning, or I don't know who's doing that stuff, burning. I mean, I've seen a lot of different perspectives on that. People pay protesters, like, what the, you hiring? It's like, no. My karma's too instant for freaking trying to, whatever. But yeah, inner leadership. Basically, each person individually sweeping their own porch promotes change throughout the entire cosmos or universe or your local reality, environment, etc., etc. Seeking others to lead you naturally promotes control. And there's a quote that says, absolute power corrupts absolutely. any form of control, basically, eventually, that other individual will exert force at some point in time, which is not natural according to the way of the Tao. It's not natural. It's not spontaneous. It's linear. If you can predict what another individual is doing because you're forcing them to do it, what is that? It's not natural. It's not spontaneous. What do we do about these things? These are the solutions, but how do we get to the solution, you ask? Well, there's a number of ways. This is one of many. This is one of the first vids getting into this kind of stuff, but you know, boom. You got solutions down here. First, there's a lot in this documentary, Minimalism. Explains a ton. I'll read a couple passages. Next, you got the book, Feeling is the Secret. What is that book about? In that book, they say things like, pretty much, Wombat regime, they say, the most dominant identity that you embody, meaning how you see yourself when you look in the mirror, the most dominant identity that you identify with every night before you go to sleep seeps into your subconscious. And the next day, you experience that reality. And it happens over and over. Oh, there it is. It happens. Each and every night you go to sleep, the most dominant identity is passed on to the next day. This is what this book talks about. Pretty much. I mean, it's a lot more. It gets a lot more depth in the book, but that just goes to show you that this reality is a lot more malleable or flexible than we have been led to believe. There's a lot going on that is hush hush, pretty much, that they don't want you to just be able to, you know, outsmart this system. But I mean, the whole point is not fighting against them makes the power go away, because where attention goes, energy flows. Dang, this wind is getting different. It's very indifferent to my whiteboard here. It's wild. Cowabunga, as they say. Jesus Christ. Third point. Boom. Shadow work. Guy on YouTube, Living Infinite Waters. Almost messed that up again. Woo! Shadow work. He has 3 steps. Dealing with the emotions that come up individually and healing yourself of the emotions that come up. And that in turn helps everybody around you. Boom. Second, he said, embracing the dark side. What does that mean? There's a lot of darkness, but at night you can see the stars inside of the darkness. Same principle. There's a lot of things that you may perceive as going on that is negative, but truthfully, understanding the negative allows you to transcend the negative. And basically, you can use that energy to move towards what you love. And you can cease fighting against what you hate. Works. It's called alchemy. It's scientifically proven that it works. But you have to do the work. It's not just, it's easier said than done. They call it the dark night of the soul, pretty much, where a lot of shadow emotions that have been buried in the subconscious, pretty much, they heal over time by putting them under a microscope, seeing why and how they are able to continually manifest, and through understanding, the entire universe begins to come together to heal your perspectives. If that makes sense. Yeah. So those are the main takeaways, pretty much. It's understanding inner trust leads to outer bliss, and letting go of control. It all comes together and makes sense. Letting go of control, pretty much. When you let go, you're allowing the universe to act naturally and spontaneously in your favor. And it's difficult at first. It's similar, it's basically just having an open heart and allowing the universe to move in whichever way that it desires. Well, not desires, but just like the waves in the ocean, they're just moving, they're just doing their thing. The wind just doing its thing, you know, winding. The waves just waving, you know. Birds flapping. You name it. There's lots of ways to interpret these differences between a spontaneous and linear existence. Spontaneous, you can equate that to an infinite amount of realities or timelines or possibilities, meaning there's just infinite. Linear is calculated. It's unnatural. There's no real perfect like circles and stuff in nature. Or I mean, I heard somebody say that once. It made sense when he said it. You know, I don't know. But I do know, but I don't know. It's coming from somewhere else. That's it though, Wombat Regime. I'm gonna end you off there. Wombat Regime, over and out.